Hey everyone, I'm Matt with Ozark Overland Adventures, and in this video, we're going to talk about diesel heaters, specifically this one. This is my newest diesel heater. This is will be the fourth one that I've owned, and this one is by far my favorite so far. This one is from Vevor, and it is their 8 kilowatt diesel heater that does something that I am super pumped about for this upcoming winter camping season that none of my other diesel heaters have been able to do. And that is, this one has Bluetooth app control. So I can be up in my tent, I can open the app and be able to check on the diesel heater, see any error codes that may have popped up, turn it on and off, have all that information that is normally on the screen, and I can have that on my phone. So let's dig into all the different features of this. We'll turn it on. We'll put it to the test, and I'll show you what all it comes with and how to set it up and all that sort of stuff. So let's go. Now, if you're new to diesel heaters, they really do make a huge difference when you're winter camping. I mean, I've used buddy heaters in the past. We use heated blankets when it's not too terribly cold. But a lot of people, once winter hits, late fall hits, people decide to stop camping. And to me, that is the best time to get out and enjoy overlanding and camping, because when it's really cold, that's when you can build that great big campfire. There's no burn bans usually in the wintertime, but you can build that big campfire, and then you can turn this on, be it in a ground tent, or if you got your rig built out that you can sleep in your rig, or a rooftop tent like we have, or a trailer also like we have. These I hate, it's so overused, but these really are game changers in extending your winter camping. With a diesel heater in my rooftop tent, I have legit been buried under 6 inches of snow, low 20s, and I was asleep in my tent in my underwear, just with a light blanket on top of me. Like, you don't need to bundle up and have the big heavy sleeping bags and sleep in multiple layers of clothes, because I mean, for me that's not very comfortable. Some people may like it, but I don't. You don't need that. With this, you can turn your camper or your ground tent or your rooftop tent, into a very warm, cozy space that you can just hang out in and sleep like normal. Light blanket, underwear, pajamas, whatever. So these really are game changers, and they're not expensive. This one right here, $150. $150, and it comes with everything that you need, save for 2 things, and we'll get into that. So if you're new, if you've never had a diesel heater before, they come in a couple different shapes and sizes. They come in this tall version. You can get this exact same diesel heater in a different format, where the fuel tank, instead of being on, the fuel tank is here, the actual heater part is here. So you can get them where the fuel tank is on the side and it's more of a square format. Or you can get them as a kit where it doesn't come with any housing, and if you have a trailer or a van or something and you want to permanently mount something like this, you can buy them as a kit and just put the different pieces and get as big of a fuel tank as you want and build it out like that. And it comes with just about everything you need. When you order one of these all-in-one units, either this one or the square one, they come with, here's the box that it came with. They come with multiple clamps and brackets and stuff, hose clamps, this little outlet vent thing if you're gonna mount this in a camper or something. Actually, I may start using this in my rooftop tent too, because it does allow you to kind of redirect the air. But it comes with all that. It also comes with this tube here and this air filter. This is your air intake. You do have to mount this. You have to put this together and mount this on the bottom. I'm not going to turn it on its side because it's full of diesel, and if it's tipped over on its side, it will leak. And it comes with the exhaust tube. Now this you have to bend in whatever shape you want. If you're, like I said, if you're mounting this, you can bend it and run it out of your camper or van or whatever. But it comes with the exhaust tube that you also have to mount under the bottom and bend it to fit, and it comes with the muffler. I've had ones in the past that did not come with the muffler. Does the muffler make a difference? Yes, it actually does. The muffler really does make a difference in how loud the exhaust is, because with the muffler on, this is just nice, very nice white noise. It's very pleasant. It's good to go to sleep to. So these are not loud at all. Even if you've got them cranked up, they're not bad. And then it comes with the remote. Every diesel heater I've owned has come with a remote control. All the remotes are very basic. You've got on, off, and then plus and minus for your temperature. So if you're up in your tent and you need to turn it off remotely, you can. If you need to adjust the temperature, you can. I mean, there's no display on this. You don't have any type of readout or anything. If something goes wrong with your diesel heater and you just have this, then you got to go outside in the cold and look at the screen to see what's going on. So that's been my frustration in the past, because I have had them, overheat, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I have had some voltage issues with one in the past, with an issue that was in my Gladiator, not anything related to the diesel heater, but I had to get down out of my tent in the freezing cold to find out what was going on with it. So these are handy if you just need to adjust temperature and stuff in your tent while this is outside. But if you want to start diagnosing stuff, you got to go down. So that's where the Bluetooth app comes in. So it comes with all this. It comes with this very short output hose. This is a 3-inch output here. So it comes with a 3-inch hose here and the clamps. I've kind of bent that up a little bit. There it goes. But as you can see, this isn't very much. This is great if you are, building this out in a van or something, or maybe parking this right outside your ground tent and then putting this through. But if you want to get it up to a rooftop tent, that's when there's a couple things you have to buy to make this work. One is a longer hose, just like a dryer duct hose, and I'll show you what I did with that in a minute. And the other is how you're going to connect it to power. It comes with just a loose wire with 2 loose ends. That way you have the option to, if you're just connecting this directly to a battery in a van or a camper or something, you have that option. You could connect this to like an Anderson connector on this end, and have an Anderson connector in your rig or whatever, and be able to just easily plug it in and out of that. Most people, I think, are going to go with a 12-volt socket like this, because this does all run off 12 volt. So I think most people are going to go with a cigarette lighter style socket like this. That's what I've had on all of mine. And so you do have to buy one of these, like on Amazon or at an auto parts store or something, and connect these two together like I have. Do make sure yours is rated for, I think this one's maybe 15 amps, but make sure it's rated well above 10 amps. I think there's some of these that are only rated at 8 amps, and you will blow the fuse because this does pull above 10 amps upon startup. So make sure you get the right plug. So you got to buy the plug and connect it, and you need to get a longer hose to be able to pipe the air up into your tent. And that's really it. That's all you gotta. That's the only additional things you need to purchase to get this thing up and running. So let's get this turned on, and let me show you what all it can do. For a power source, I'm using the Bluetti EB55. It's a 500 watt-hour power station. I have never had an issue running a diesel heater off a Bluetti power station. I've heard other people have issues with some other brands. I've tried EcoFlow, never had an issue with those, but some people have. But I've never had an issue with the Bluettis. When you plug it in, you just get a little clock there. I haven't gone in to try to set that. It's actually not 12 o'clock. But you just you can turn it on by either holding down the power button there, holding down the power button on your remote, or connecting to the app, which is my favorite way to do it. And you turn it on, it shows that the diesel heater is in standby mode, and you just press the power button. Start heating. And she tells you it's going to start heating. She's so sweet. And this will begin the startup process. The fan will kick on. The fuel pump will start ticking. And some people find that sound annoying. It's not loud enough to bother me at all, especially when I'm up in my tent. But the fuel pump will start clicking, which is just pumping that fuel in there. And then it will start to ramp up and then settle in after it warms up and once it gets to temperature, then it'll kind of calm down and settle down into its normal run state. Now, you may notice I have put this on a couple blocks of wood, and that brings me to one thing that I find annoying about both of the all-in-one style of diesel heaters is that this exhaust hose, it gets real hot. And the feet that are on the diesel heaters, they're actually not, they don't give you enough vertical clearance for the exhaust to not touch whatever is underneath it. So if I had this running full blast on this wooden top here, it would actually burn this. I have actually had a different diesel heater melt the plastic on my tailgate table. So that gets very hot. So that's why I've got these two little pieces of wood here just to raise it up about an inch off the table so it doesn't get real hot. You hear the pump going. You hear the exhaust getting a little louder. So it's getting cranked up. Now on startup, this will pull around 130 watts, but just for a few minutes while that glow plug is getting hot, while it's getting warmed up. Right now it's pulling 113. It's going to crank up just a little bit more, but then once this thing gets settled in, everything's fired up in there and where it should be, the only power you're pulling is what's required to turn the fan, and that's it, which is between 10 and maybe 40 watts on high. So you hear it's ramping up. It sounds like a jet engine that's about to take off. It's going. Yeah, now we're up to 131 watts on the power station. And that should be about 130, 135. Should be about as much as it goes. And now it's really kicking into gear. But the fan's kicked on, but the heater, the glow plug has shut down, so now it's settling down into normal mode, and so the wattage that's being pulled from it is going down. So you don't have to have like a really big power station to be able to run this. You just need enough to get it going, and then it'll pull 30 watts the rest of the time. So a 500 watt hour power station is perfect for this. All right, so this thing has settled down. It's up to temp. I've got this set on level 4 out of 10 as far as the heat and the fan speed. It is currently pulling 15 watts, and the output temp says 152 degrees Celsius, which is, hey Siri, what's 152 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit? So 305 degrees is what it's reporting inside. I've got my little laser thermometer here. Let's see what that says. That's saying 282, 298. So yeah, that's real hot in there, and so that's real nice. That's on level 4. Now these have a 5 liter or a 1.3 gallon diesel fuel tank in here. And surprisingly, on their website, that says up to 8 hours worth of runtime off of a gallon. So 0.3 gallons left over. Now, my real world experience is if you're running this on low, you're easily going to get 2 nights out of a 1.3 gallon tank here. So that 8 hours must be running this thing on high cranked up, because even on high, I've had this thing last longer than 8 hours. So I don't know what that number's from, but real world experience, you'll get 2 nights out of this, unless you're maybe going to bed really early. But I always carry an extra couple gallons, which easily gets me through a long weekend. One thing that the Vevor has that no other diesel heater I've used has had before, this actually has automatic altitude correction. Other diesel heaters, you get them up at higher altitudes, you've got lower, lower oxygen levels in the air at higher altitudes, especially above like 10,000 feet. And you have to go in and there's ways that you can tweak the richness of the fuel air mixture in there. This one is supposed to have automatic altitude correction so that you don't have to worry about that. And it says this will work as long as you keep it below 18,000 feet, which is crazy to me. There's no roads or vehicle accessible campsites in the United States above 14,000 feet. So I think this is a perfect solution for that. I've just been letting this run for a little bit. It has settled in at about 182 degrees Celsius or 350 degrees Fahrenheit for that's like right here on the output. As this travels through the hose and gets to your tent, it's not 350 degrees by any means. So that's the output, like in there on the heater section. So that's saying 356 right inside there. Now let's crank this thing all the way up to 10 and see what we get. Here, the fuel pump ticking a little bit faster. It's putting more fuel in there. Fan's kicking up. Starting to pull more wattage out of here. I'm curious to see just how hot this gets. All right, I've been letting this go for a few minutes. It's pretty much settled down to now 218 degrees Celsius, which is about 424. That is, I can't keep my hand there for very long. It's going to melt the flesh off. Ow! That's going to turn you into the person on Raiders of the Lost Ark. Fan is cranking 41 watts on that. So I mean, imagine a 500 watt power station, 41 watts overnight. You're going to get more than 10 hours worth of runtime with this combo. So that's awesome. Now that that's cranked up, let's power this down and then move it over to my rooftop tent, and let's do a real world test here in the Jeep. And to power it down, you just hold the button. It says stop heating. Now I will say one critical mistake that some people make, that I've made when I first got my first diesel heater, is not letting this go through the entire shutdown process. Inside the heat exchanger, soot can build up, and if that happens, that's bad. So if you make the same mistake that I did the very first time I used a diesel heater, and when I was just done with it, just unplugged it, that's going to foul up the internals, and it's not going to come back on the next time, or after a couple times of doing that. Ask me how I know. When I was in New Mexico, it was low 30s, had the diesel heater, wasn't planning on needing many blankets. Karen and I got real cold that night because it wouldn't come back on, and I had no clue why. So make sure you, on the screen, on the remote, in the app, whatever, actually turn it off and let this thing go through its shutdown process, which burns off all the soot, and it does some things before it's actually officially done. So let's let it go through that process, and then we'll take it over to the rooftop tent. Actually, before I take this over to the Jeep, let me talk about the hose thing, because what most people do, that I did, this is a 3-inch opening, and so it would make sense that you would get a 3-inch dryer hose like this, because it's a perfect fit over that, and then run this up to your tent. That works fine as long as you keep this on a lower setting, like 1 to 4. But there's this hose is actually not quite big enough around, because once you start compressing all that air in here, what that causes is an overheating error to happen on the diesel heater if you crank it up above 4, from what I found out last weekend. So luckily, a awesome dude at the camp that we were staying at happened to have a 4-inch hose. So if you need to pipe this up into a rooftop tent and or just direct the air anywhere that you need a longer piece of hose, do this. Take this hose that fits over that, right there. Maybe cut it, leave about 4 inches on it, get you a 4-inch dryer hose, and clamp the 4-inch hose around, or you can duct tape it around the 3-inch hose and use that to connect to the diesel heater. With this setup, you can crank this thing on high and it'll run just fine all night. But you need to have a 4-inch hose, not the 3-inch hose that you would think would be what you need. So you do that and it will be perfect. And now you can take the 4-inch hose and just go directly on it and really crank it down with the clamp. I just find using this little rigid hose that comes with it as the framework for that, I just find that works better and makes it easier getting that on and off than the 4-inch. So there's a little tip for you. Go with the 4-inch dryer hose, not the 3-inch. So all right, let's go. All right, the current temp in the tent, that's hard to say, temp in the tent is 36 degrees. So let's see how the diesel heater does at warming up this space. I just want to run this at level 2 to see what happens. It's been about 15 minutes. I think it's settled in. It's pulling a whopping 10 watts on level 2. So let's get up there and see what the temperature is. It is 66 degrees in here, which is very, very nice. I mean, this is perfect. Just sleep under a blanket. 67 degrees now. I mean, that is super comfortable. It can be mid-30s outside, and on low you've got 67 degrees in your tent. I mean, that's awesome. All right, so just for fun, let's crank this up to 7 and see what it does. All right, it's been about 15 minutes later. As you can hear, the fan's kicked up, fuel pump moving a little bit faster. It is currently pulling 23 watts on level 7. Let's check the temp upstairs. Woo-wee! 81 degrees in here. That's gonna be real cozy. Yeah, that's working really well. Now, in addition to the rooftop tent or a ground tent, perfect application for that. Since this is the 8 kilowatt one, Karen and I actually used this past weekend in Kentucky to heat our Conqueror. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with our Conqueror, if you haven't seen it before on our channel. It's a fairly decent sized off-road trailer with interior living space. So we were using just this to heat up the interior of our Conqueror at night. And the lows were getting into the low 30s, so it got pretty chilly, and it did fantastic. We were, for the most part, running this at a medium setting. The last night, I did have it cranked up on high, and I mean, we slept great. We didn't have to have tons of blankets piled on top of us, and it filled up that big interior space really, really well. So was super impressed with how well this thing did, not only with rooftop tents, but with our Conqueror. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, there's some, you can get into more of the settings in the screen and stuff. I'm not going to get into that. There's other YouTube videos that cover that. But just from a functionality standpoint and how well this Vevor 8 kilowatt one is working so far, it's great. We are now officially into winter camping season. So unless we get some crazy warm spell coming up, anytime you see me out camping from now on throughout until spring, you're going to see me with the diesel heater just staying nice and warm and cozy in my tent. These things are an absolute game changer for winter camping, and of all the diesel heaters that I've had so far, I really, really like this Vevor. It is good. I'll put a link in the description to help you get to it, both off their website and on Amazon as well. You can get them both places. And I am blown away by this one. I chose the vertical one just because of how it fits in the back of my Gladiator really well. The more square one, exact same diesel heater, just a different shape. So whichever one works best for you, or whichever one happens to be in stock, go for it. But I hope this was helpful. If you don't have experience with the diesel heater, highly recommend it. It is so much better than like a buddy heater and a propane heater, because those create a lot of condensation, which freezes on the roof of your tent. It's a big pain in the butt to mess with. Very nice dry heat. You don't have to deal with all that kind of stuff. You don't have to deal with running out of propane either. And just really, really like these. So if you would, give the video a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. Help us reach that goal of 100,000 by the end of this year. We're real close. Not sure we're going to hit it, but we need your help too. So please go help us out. And if you like the content that we're putting out, you find these reviews helpful, our trip videos, hopefully they are inspiring you to get out, and you want to support the channel, check out the Patreon link in the description below. Check out the Patreon link in the description. You'll gain access to special content, special events, like a big upcoming Patreon gathering that we have at Maris Adventure Park near Amarillo, Texas at Paladero Canyon. That's coming up the second weekend of December, and it's going to be an absolute awesome time. So if you want to join us on that, check out the link in the Patreon. So if you want to join us on that, check out the Patreon link. And for Ozark Overland Adventures merchandise, is now sweatshirt season. Yay. Go to shopoverlandapparel.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.